Welcome back to more mother-in-law stories where users share their crazy experiences with their own mother-in-laws, and we might even feel a little bit better about our own mother-in-law. If you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, I, female 30, divorced my ex-husband, male 36, because of my mother-in-law, female 60s, and suddenly he wants back in. And guys, please be prepared, the two stories we will read today are really long, so please stay until the end. My ex and I were married for well over 5 years and together for 10. His mother was a nightmare. She would spend her time belittling me and tried humiliating me. I could take it as I loved my husband and did not want to make him choose between her or me. Of course, I would always tell him what she would be doing, and he would always brush it off as her being a loving and overprotecting mom. When she would say something racist, I am Hispanic and they are white, he would laugh it off, and when she would make a comment of me being a gold digger, even though I earned more than my ex, he would just say, "Oh mom." He would also get mad at me if I ever stood up for myself. But the straw that broke the camel's back is when we had our daughter. My mother-in-law would always try to parent her and say that I would do something wrong. My daughter has an irritable colon and she cannot ingest any kind of oils or artificial things. And guess what that loony of a woman did? She fed my 3-year-old daughter essential oils to make her go to sleep. She was in the ICU, I had it, and I confronted my husband, who said, "She only did what she thought was best." I lost it. I went to my parents and drafted a divorce agreement. That is the best course of action. I saw a post earlier describing a situation that is much more dangerous than mine, involving allergens and an EpiPen. His face was like that Pikachu meme when I served him. He didn't know why I was doing that, because we were happy. So now a year has passed and my life was hell. My monster-in-law tried every dirty trick in the book to take my daughter. To name a few, she accused my brother of molesting her, she accused me of neglect, she accused me of taking drugs and leaving them in reach of a toddler, I take thyroxine for heaven's sake, she accused me of endangering my daughter by leaving random men in my house. The list goes on and on. During this time, the excuse of my ex was that I broke his heart and I had to understand his mother. She only wants what is best for him. Luckily, I got good representation and even got my daughter full-time minus some weekends or visitation. I could prove that my daughter was endangered by his mother. So now to the advice part. I knew that my ex needed to be permanently in my life because of my daughter, and I was learning to live with that. He was very cold with me because again I broke his heart. Now two things have come together. My ex-brother-in-law got married to an African-American woman, so of course my ex-mother-in-law flipped. Then I started dating again. My brother-in-law is a great guy and he actually stood up for his wife. Go figure, it is possible. I stay in contact with him because we are friends and he was a mediator and fought with his brother quite often. So my brother-in-law actually stood up for his wife and my ex-husband got his panties in a twist. My brother-in-law basically opened his eyes how crappy he was being. And that their mom treated me the same way she treated his wife, and finally my dense ex started understanding. The guy I am seeing is great, I have even met his parents and his mother is normal. She treats me like a human being and has invited me already to many family functions and tries to make me and my daughter feel welcomed. My ex got wind from the situation through a mutual friend, and guess who is now flipping his crap? He started bringing flowers and chocolate, I don't even like chocolate, to pick up our daughter. He sends me cards and SMS with hearts and who knows what. Yesterday was the best thing. My daughter was at my mother's place and I was home with my boyfriend. He appears in front of my door crying and clutching my engagement ring, begging me to come back. I said no and that he should go away. However, he wouldn't and started demanding that I come out to talk to him. My boyfriend told him that he would call the police and in his pathetic fashion he threatened to beat my boyfriend up. I closed the door and let him pound sand. Today he picked up my daughter for a day trip and when they came back my daughter was asking if I loved my boyfriend more than her. Now I am at a loss what to do. I already told my daughter that it was impossible because my love for her is infinite and there's nothing bigger than infinite. But now I know that my ex is trying to make my daughter hate me. I am at a loss because I won't use my daughter as ammunition, but also, what the hell am I supposed to do? I will never return with that man, but I cannot take the father of my daughter. Do you guys have any advice? Edit/mini update. Thank you all, I needed to vent and was feeling helpless, and I am so thankful for you wonderful people. I talked to my lawyer who confirmed that we could have a case for domestic violence by proxy. A social worker will be visiting us in the next few days to talk to my daughter about this. Edit, because apparently people want to spin the world narrative on me. I don't care if he wants me back, I don't love him anymore and will never get back together with him. Staying for the sake of our daughter would not make sense, as it has been proven that the kids grow up happier in divorced homes than unhappy homes. I tried talking to my husband when we were still married and he would always brush it off. He would brush off everything his mother did. I complained to him and told him we needed to go to therapy, which he declined. He has his daughter on the weekends. The court gave me majority custody because of his mother. And guys, as you can see, this already starts out pretty insane if you ask me, but thankfully there are a few more updates to read. And by the way, I would just like to remind you, please don't forget to like the video, because that really means a lot to me and it would help me tremendously, because then YouTube will recommend my video to more people. Thank you so much in advance, and thank you especially for all your support, it is very much appreciated. And now let's move on to the next story. Update to the I divorced my ex-husband because of my mother-in-law story. I just posted here yesterday, but it feels like weeks have happened. So I have just left my daughter with my mom and I'm going to a lawyer again. I followed some advice you guys gave me and we sat down with my daughter to chit-chat. We knew we could not prompt any kind of responses, my asking overly specific questions as per her therapist. So my mother asks my daughter, let's call her Kat, "Kat, what do you and daddy talk about?" And Kat just listed many toddler things, like she talks about kindergarten, games, etc. When I was kind of relieved that that comment my ex made yesterday may just be a one-off, came the big bomb. He also shows me pictures of houses and tells me I can now have 2 rooms with loads of stuff. I ask if her dad is buying a new house. Nope. Turns out that nut wants to take my daughter out of the country. He shows her pictures of beach houses and even bought her already a bag so she can put her stuff inside, which explains why so many of her clothes have gone missing. At first I thought that my ex maybe had not told me yet because it hadn't come through, but no, he told my daughter to keep this as a secret because mommy would get sad if she knew that daddy was going away. So I am livid and also sad because I will have to tell my daughter no. Once again, I feel lost. Edit/update, I talked to my lawyer and we have taken measures that I cannot discuss here, but we are on it. I have my daughter's passport as we flew last month to visit extended family. Also, I am a US citizen, so even if my ex-mother-in-law tried to have me deported, that would not be possible. And as you can see guys, the story has quickly taken a pretty dark turn if you ask me, and now let's see what happens in the update. Oh, and by the way, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments if you want to show your support. Thank you so much in advance. And the final update to the story. So I thought of giving you the last update as you helped me through this. I didn't have enough evidence to request an ex parte, aka emergency child custody, so my lawyer and I had to work on steps to prevent child abduction. We got a custody decree that included provisions including passports, travel restrictions, etc. We also had to be very wary of the signs. He in fact quit his job, and on a realtor's page I saw that he was putting on sale his mother's house. That and my daughter's words was all we needed to notify law enforcement for them to keep an eye out. I could not prevent my daughter from seeing her father. We tried to continue business as usual without my daughter feeling something was up. I got a call from the police department regarding the passport situation. My daughter's passport had expired very recently, 5 years validity. My ex-husband had tried to request a passport for my daughter without my knowledge. Which was stupid because even without the decree I had to be present or submit a notarized document of me stating that he could request the passport. After that, things went actually very fast. He was investigated because he violated the decree, and it was found out that mother-in-law had bought 3 tickets with no return date to Mexico. I could request an ex parte. After a crap ton of documents, I submitted it. In most cases, the judge will evaluate behind closed doors. We had the hearing yesterday. It takes usually 10 to 20 days, which was very good for me. At the moment, I have sole custody for my daughter. This is all temporary. My ex has visitation rights if I was present, but he cannot take her anywhere. This is once the investigation of him is closed. I was cursed out by my ex and my ex-mother-in-law, and they said they will try to contest this, but they have no leg to stand on. My daughter will continue in therapy, especially after this. I will not prohibit him from seeing her, but he needs help. This was really scary and a very intense 2 weeks. I don't think that I will update again, but I wanted to thank you all for your tips and support. I am really thankful as I am finally not anxious the whole time. Thank you really much. Wow, and I have to say, I am very happy for OP that it worked out in the end. I mean, at least sort of. I would still be a bit scared of that ex-husband and insane mother-in-law if you ask me. But thankfully in this case, the law is on her side, and it seems like the law is protecting her as well. My just no mother-in-law almost wound up arrested on my wedding day. So my husband and I have been friends since 2009, dating since 2012, and we married in 2016. My just no mother-in-law is an alcoholic. I did not know how bad until after we married. She started drinking early into our reception and drank the whole 3-hour-ish party. Granted, she paid for the bar venue, she picked it, but still. During the party, she was hysterically crying because my only child is married, resulting in other people consoling her and making her the center of attention at our wedding party. At this point, neither my husband nor I drive, so after the party we load into in-law's car, father-in-law gets in the driver's seat. We also have our small children with us. Yes, kids before marriage. Karen, I'm going to hell anyways. Just no mother-in-law begins pouting and bickering about, why can't I drive? I want to drive. In the 10-minute drive to our apartment, she elevates to screaming. My husband collects the kids and car seats and tries to scoot me in the house. He did not get me in before just no mother-in-law begins full-blown tantruming. She winds up screaming loud enough for everyone to hear, fine, F you, I will walk home. Father-in-law follows her and tries to get her in the car. She refuses and runs, drunk as F, through yards and shit. Someone calls the cops as she is stumble running. The cops and father-in-law catch up with her at the same time. He takes her home and put her to bed. The cops gave them a warning about public intoxication. We walk on eggshells around her all the time because she is still a raging alcoholic. We have to live with them due to a housing crisis. It is awful, I don't need advice, there's nothing to advise, but I needed to share. The next story is from the same subreddit and is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that she cannot control how I act in my home? My mother-in-law moved in with us about 3 months ago. It has been okay, she and I are clashing personalities and cultures, and it is come up more often now that we share a similar space. She is a traditional Hispanic woman with a strong sense of decorum and family hierarchy. I am white, liberal in all ways, and agnostic about most traditions, including and especially the need to obey elders. Before, out of consideration to my spouse and out of a belief in the "my house, my rules" adage, I used to watch what I said around her very carefully because we only visited her about once a month. But when my spouse asked if she could live with us, I said I was okay with it as long as I no longer had to walk on eggshells around her. My spouse agreed and told their mother that she needs to respect that we do and say things differently in our home than she may like. I don't know how her mother responded to that, but it never came up again. Last week, my 10-year-old and I were chatting while having breakfast while she was in the kitchen. We were goofing around and making bodily function sounds to each other. We are very mature, I know, but when I said, "I fart in your general direction," and made a loud raspberry sound at her, she was giggling like crazy. My mother-in-law slammed down her coffee mug and said in Spanish, "Don't you dare teach my granddaughter to be so disrespectful. I will not allow this kind of vulgarity in my home any longer." And I said, in English, I can understand Spanish but cannot speak it well, this is my home. You don't get a say in how I interact with my kids or how any of us speak or act." She stormed away and now is not speaking to me. My spouse says I am the a-hole because I embarrassed her in front of our daughter and because I expected her to accept too much too quickly. They also say that I am being a little culturally insensitive and that I need to respect that Abuela will be deeply offended by how I spoke to her, so I need to apologize. And I also apologize for butchering that word. Anyway, but I think it was important for her to see that I would stand up for our interactions and myself, and also to stick to what we originally agreed on, that I won't be policed in my own home. So guys, in this case, is OP the a-hole or not? Am I the a-hole for being mad my mother-in-law stored a pie in my oven? This was from last Thanksgiving, but I was recently reminded of it and I'm still wondering where other people stand on this. After Thanksgiving, we had a lot of leftovers, so we crammed everything into the fridge. Unbeknownst to me or my partner, my mother-in-law decided to put 2 leftover pies in our oven for storage, one of which had a plastic tray. They then left town the next day. A few days later, I went to make some food and preheated the oven, which upon smelling a strange smell discovered the burning pies and now dripping molten plastic all over my oven. I got quite mad at my mother-in-law for a few reasons, which started an argument with my husband as he is defending all these actions. Number 1, I've never heard of using an oven for storing food over multiple days and I found it bizarre. Second, I said that even if that's normal, she should not put something that can melt like plastic in an oven ever. To which my husband responded, "It is my responsibility to check." Number 3, she should have told me or him that she had put it there, because if she was leaving, how would we know to look before it went bad? For whatever reason, this turned into a huge argument as I spent the next days scraping and burning off the melted plastic, and my husband continued to argue that keeping food in an oven is completely normal behavior and that I should have checked first. So, am I the a-hole for having these expectations/beliefs? And for thinking my kitchen will be the way I left it? Is it all my fault for not checking first, or did she drop the ball? Honestly, I would not have cared if it just burned food. It was the plastic that made it into a bigger deal. The next stories are gonna be from r/today I effed up and are also concerned with mother-in-law content. Today I effed up by teaching my baby sign language. I go to this mommy and me thing every week with my daughter. Not because it's my kind of thing, but because my mother-in-law paid the membership for a year as a Christmas gift to my 1-year-old, aka she does not think I am socializing her grandchild enough, and this was her way of passive-aggressive correcting my parenting. Anyways, we go to this thing every week for an hour and all the Pinterest moms are planning themed birthday parties and discussing screen time and sharing gluten-free recipes while their kids stare at each other. But all these kids know sign language and I thought it was pretty damn cool. So I start looking into this and try teaching my kid some basic signs for basic needs. And it is working. Suddenly, my tiny human who otherwise could not effectively communicate with me knows how to say more and all done and drink. She can call me mom and my husband dad. Holy crap. Thanks Pinterest moms, I take back all the shit I talked about you to my kid on our weekly drives home. Well, today with my husband out of town, I did not feel much like cooking, and since my daughter is pretty laid back at restaurants, I decided to go out for a quick dinner. The kid loves French fries and so do I. So we hit the local burger joint and I order a beer, a burger with fries and a side of fruit. The server brings a little styrofoam cup with a lid and a straw filled with water for my daughter, and I set it out of her reach so she does not Hulk smash the styrofoam and make a mess. So, of course, every time she wants some, she signs drink, and every time she wants my attention, she signs dad, because apparently the slightly different sign for mom is not as fun for her. Okay, whatever. Well, I notice a couple tables away, there are a couple of women who are also signing to each other, but they are looking over at us and snickering. I'm like, okay, I did like 4 quick Google searches, maybe I botched some of what I taught her. It's fine. But then as the women are leaving, they stop by our table and one of them lays her iPhone down with a message typed out for me to read. It says something to the effect of, "She's calling you dumb and telling you she wants to drink alcohol." I'm like, wait, what? So she continues to show me that I have in fact taught my daughter the wrong signs, that there are different signs for drink, non-alcoholic beverage, and drink alcohol, and by balling her first up instead of using a flat hand at her forehead, my daughter has been calling me dumb instead of dad, which was already wrong, obviously, since I am her mom. I can only imagine what the Pinterest moms would have done had I shown up next week with my kid asking to drink liquor. Today I effed up by stripping down and sexually confronting my father-in-law. So this happened about an hour ago and I'm just sitting in at a cafe trying to stop cringing in embarrassment. I am on vacation with my wife and her family and we arrived at the hotel today, checked in and settled into our rooms. A while later, a few of us headed out to explore. I went and met up with a friend who lived in the area and ended up having a few drinks. Earlier, while I was out, I had got a text from my wife saying that she was switching our room with her parents as ours had a balcony while theirs did not, which her dad wanted so he could smoke, and that she was going out for dinner with her mom. Anyway, I saw it, said okay fine, agreed to switch keycards with him once I got back. A few hours later I was a bit drunk and my friend dropped me back to the hotel. The text had completely slipped my mind and so I headed to the room with the balcony where her parents were staying and, thinking it was ours, went right in. As I went in, I heard the shower running in the bathroom and, feeling promiscuous, I decided to give who I thought was my wife in the shower a little surprise. So I stripped down, completely naked, and, seeing that the door was slightly ajar, decided to barge in. So I did, while also announcing quite loudly, "Daddy's home." The sight that lay before me is one that will be stuck in my mind forever. My father-in-law, naked in the shower, looking at in a mixture of disbelief, confusion and mostly anger. I froze and for a second we just stood there in silence, which was soon broken by him shouting, "What the F?" my name. At this point my flight response kicked in and, as fast as I could, rushed out, dressed faster than I ever have before in my life, and ran out the room. Since I don't have the keycard for the other room and sure as hell am not going back to ask for it, I'm now sitting at this cafe outside the hotel. I'm waiting for my wife to get back from her dinner, as I don't really think I can explain what just happened over the phone if I can explain it without dying of embarrassment at all. So yeah, the family brunch tomorrow should be interesting. Mother-in-law uses Christmas gift to ruin childhood wish. Posted by user Suko Shikira once again. When I was growing up, my mom had a brass kaleidoscope that a friend of hers had made while they were in college together. I've been fascinated with it for as long as I can remember and always wanted one of my own. Apparently, my husband told my mother-in-law this when she asked what to get me for Christmas. She usually gets me a gift card to a bookstore, but she decided last year needed to be different. So she got me one with the help of my sister-in-law. It was beautiful, not like my mom's of course, but gorgeous. It was brass looking and had a leather-bound handle. I could not believe it. I was thrilled. Trying not to cry from sheer joy, I turned to her and thanked her profusely. She smiled really big in return and responded with, "Well, no offense, but it's not like I was going to spend a lot of money on you anyway." I was crushed. I would not have cared if it was a plastic toy from the dollar store. Just the fact that someone got me a kaleidoscope was amazing to me, or it had been. Now my joy was dead. I did not know what to say, so I put it back in the shoebox she had wrapped it in and tucked it under my seat until the end of the night. I cried on the way home. I have not touched it since that day and I don't plan on going with my husband to see my in-laws for the holiday this year. I don't want anything from her ever again. Honestly, I don't even get that. Why would you give someone a present in the first place and then make such a remark? Honestly, in my opinion, not going to your in-laws for the holiday this year is probably the best decision you could have made. And by the way guys, I'm curious, what was the worst present that you have ever received? If you ask me, a present does not have to be expensive, but it needs to show that you put some effort/thought into it. Otherwise, in my opinion, giving presents is kind of meaningless. Anyway, let's continue. The Deadbeat and the Southern Granny, my almost just no mother-in-law story, a Ripe exclusive. This story is a Ripe exclusive and he has full permission to use it in a video. The cast is DB, Deadbeat, son's father, SG, Southern Granny, DB's mother. When I was 20, I met my son's father at church of all places. When we dated, I had no problem with his family, they invited me to family functions and I spent Thanksgiving and Christmas with them. We dated a year when I became pregnant with my son and that is when things started going south. I was engaged to DB, but we never married. Once you get to the end of the story, you will know why. Some things Southern Granny did. Number 1, told DB that he did not have to marry me just because I was pregnant and told him that I got pregnant on purpose to trap him. Second, when the baby was born, SG exclaimed,
"He looks nothing like DB. I bet that's not even his baby."
I was a virgin when DB and I started dating. Third, insisted I stay with them. DB still lived with his parents after the baby was born so she could
teach me how to be a proper mother.
During that time, she refused to let me breastfeed because
you don't know how much he's eating and you don't know when he's full.
Maybe he stops eating when he is full. Fourth, I got no support from DB and went on public assistance so I could take care of the baby. Part of this was the state going after DB for child support. She told DB not to pay a penny until he got a paternity test because according to her, it was impossible that he could father a child. Surprise SG, it is his. Number 5, SG, Mr. SG and DB moved out of state thinking that would absolve DB of paying child support. Surprise, it did not. Number 6, SG sent letters to the state and county with excuses on why DB could not pay his child support. They got a letter back saying it did not matter, they would just add it to his balance each month and take it from his tax returns at the end of the year. I got a letter from SG saying if I was truly any kind of a Christian, I would not be asking for child support. I replied that if her son was truly any kind of a Christian, I would not have to. 7. DB would get minimum wage jobs, then quit when child support started being withheld from his paychecks. I would get a little bit of child support money here and there until my son was 15. The entire time the support order was only for $25 per week, based on DB's 1991 income, again minimum wage part-time jobs. With encouragement from a friend, I filed a petition to have the support increased since DS was now in high school and it was costing more for his care. DB shows up in court with a W-2 saying he only made $500 the previous year and of course a letter from SG saying how much he's needed at home to take care of her and Mr. SG and increasing child support would be too much of a hardship. DB then tells the judge that he wanted to sign off his parental rights. Judge asked if he was doing that to get out of paying support and the idiot admitted that he was told by a family member that if he had no rights he would not have to pay support. The judge took into account the support of DB's parents and that he lived rent-free as income and doubled the support order. Judge did not remove parental rights, but did remove visitations from the order since at his age my son could make the decision for himself if he wanted to have contact. By the way, before I forget to ask, OP mentioned that DB showed up in court with a W-2. If anyone knows what that is, please let me know in the comments because a quick Google search did not give me any information. Number 8, SG sent more letters to the state trying to get DB out of paying his support, got the same. It will continue to accumulate if it reaches $5,000 in arrears. They will petition for him to lose his driver's license. I got weekly checks for a few months. Number 9, son won an award at school, which was a big thing for him since he has a slight learning disability, tried to call to tell DB. SG got on the phone, told son that he was only calling to get information so I could take them to court again and hung up the phone. Son was devastated. SG died in 2007. We were not told and found out later while doing an online search after hearing a rumor that a cousin was killed in a gang fight. Right now, DB has 5 grandchildren and has no idea. He did finally catch up with the child support when my son was 21 years old. As far as I know, they are still living in the same location, but when my son tried to send a wedding announcement, it was marked
Return to sender.
In DB's handwriting. It's only your wedding photos. No one will care what they look like. A little background, my hubby and I have been together since I was 17. We were in no hurry to get married, but because we were living together after we both graduated high school, his mother began pressuring us about
not living in the sin.
Yeah, she's that kind of Catholic. Anyway, we eventually set a date for October of the year I turned 20. We thought mother-in-law would be thrilled, but it soon became clear she was not. It did not really manifest right away, but little setbacks began to clue me in on how she really felt. First, she offered to pay for our invitations, but 3 months before the wedding, she decided that I should not have more than 50 to 20 people at the wedding. Total. Please note, that would have only included his immediate family and no one from mine. Never mind our friends. When I would not cave on the number of people, she rescinded her offer, but said she would pay for a photographer instead. I thought, okay, no big deal. That is probably better anyway, because photographers are expensive and I can hand-make my invites. Oh, how foolish I was. See, as I mentioned, mother-in-law is super Catholic and she made it known that my Christian baptism did not count in the eyes of her church. And as a result, should we hold the ceremony there, I would be excluded from taking communion and or being blessed in my own union. The F? So I had planned on having my uncle, an ordained minister, marry us in his church instead. It's only an hour outside of our hometown, so it would be easy for everyone to attend the wedding. That is when mother-in-law informs me a month before the wedding that her photographer
won't leave the city, even to do the weddings.
So now I have to find a last-minute replacement. So I did. It cost me nearly $1,000 and the new photographer agreed to drive to the location to do our photos. So everything is settled, right? Right? Well, as it turns out, no. No, it's not. See, we, my then fiancé and I, had been informed 2 months before our wedding, is the short notice pattern becoming clear yet, that one of my future brother-in-laws was going to be joining the Marines and would be in boot camp on the day of our wedding, despite our date being set before he decided to enlist. Now, I was not upset. I get there are bigger things than my wedding, this was only 4 years after 9/11, so yeah. Anyway, we wished him the best and expressed mild disappointment that he would not be at the wedding. He apologized to us and all was good. I thought. Cue the day of my wedding. Due to various circumstances, my husband was 1.5 hours late. That is a story for another time. I only mention this because it sets the mood for the day itself. By the time the ceremony started and ended, I was wrung out, but I still had my game face on for pictures. That is when mother-in-law, who had been whispering to my photographer, pulls out a giant cardboard sign that says,
"We miss you,"
brother-in-law's name, on it and starts insisting it be held in all of my photos. I'm like, wait, isn't this my day? He knew he was going to miss the ceremony. I'm paying for these photos. He knew our wedding date when he joined the military. Why does the sign need to be in all of them? Or any of them for that matter? But I did want to be nice, so I only protest a little, not meanly or loudly, but I objected nonetheless. Mother-in-law responds with,
"They are just your,"
emphasis on your,
"wedding photos. No one is going to care what they look like."
So I caved. That stupid sign is most of my photos. The photographer flat out refused to take every photo with it in. The kicker? None of my in-laws wanted copies of my wedding pictures, and the brother-in-law told me to my face he did not care about my photos and did not want to see them. This mother-in-law story was posted by Suko Ishikira in our own subreddit r/ripestories. And I gotta say, this is not only a case of a just no mother-in-law, but potentially also a just no brother-in-law. But honestly guys, what would you do if someone essentially photobombs your wedding pictures? If I would have been in your shoes, OP, I would have freaked the F out. And guys, unfortunately, we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested. and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.